Thanks everyone for coming. This is our last lecture and of the year, of the school year of 2025-2026. This was put together by one of our fellows, Lexi. And we just wanted to cover our accomplishments this year and then talk about what our future direction is. Just so everybody here knows, and I was thinking this as I came in this morning, all of these accomplishments you see would not have happened without medical students. It started with one medical student, Jack Aries, who just was willing to do some diplomacy in Romania, and it grew from there. And then it followed with Jonathan Dahlman, who really kind of set up our research arm of this, who's now a resident of our program here at KU. And then it was then followed by Jack Aries, who really established what we have today in terms of the strength of the medical students and the mentoring that occurs. Jack Aries really kind of pioneered mentoring medical students and then passed that on. And then I think everybody's familiar with Ravali, Austin, and Haley Albers, who were former fellows of us, who did so much work in terms of building up for what you see in Ethiopia in particular. So, but today we're graduating 3 fellows, Colin Frecking, Michael Brahman, and Laura Jackson. We're going to focus a little bit on them. We're going to give them diplomas today and thank them for their work and recognize them for what they've contributed to the International Orthopedic Trauma Collaborative. So, but just to start out with, we currently, the International Orthopedic Trauma Collaborative, is working in Ethiopia, Zambia, Madagascar, and Romania. That's where we're working. And this year we received our designation officially, our letter of determination from the IRS, making us a 501c3 organization. And wow, I had no idea what that would open up for us in terms of opportunity. And collaborating with KU, by the way, because the IOTC was formed out of discussions with legal departments at KU on the education side, the university side, as well as the health system. And it's just, the IOTC has been a great adjunct in terms of doing things that the university can't necessarily provide. For example, if you bring a fellow over from, Ethiopia, they need a car. They can't come here, they can't buy a car, but our 501c3 can provide them with a car, we can pay their insurance. So there's things that but a university, come to find out, I didn't know this, but a university can't buy cars for its employees. Makes sense. I mean, it's just a thing that can't be done. So same thing with medical equipment. A university can't purchase medical equipment and ship it overseas, but our 501c3 can. The university, right, this is where the education occurs at. But when these fellows return home, they need equipment and we need a way to get it to them. So the IOTC has been instrumental for that. We did our lecture series. This is going to grow, hopefully. These were the lectures we did this year. I really would like everybody's feedback in terms of what lectures they thought were helpful, what lectures they think maybe weren't so helpful, and what lectures need to be added. This was very successful. Then we did our, in 2025, we did our first official fundraiser. Lori Spiresweet, our COO, was instrumental in making that happen, as was Bacher, our director of marketing. Lori, do you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, so this just came about through one of our community members. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Walk for Trauma came about from one of our community members who saw our film at one of our film festivals and approached me afterwards and said, hey, I've been thinking I really want to put some money towards this organization, and I had this idea that we can do this walk and maybe raise more than just what I can give out of my personal account. So they wanted to help make this Walk for Trauma, and that's what we did. So we worked with one of my friends actually who had seen the film, and he helped get all these corporate sponsors. He, along with Backer and I, worked to get all the signage and get everything together. So yeah, it was really fun and successful, and I think I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that was all initiated by a community person who was inspired. So pretty cool.
And was he in medicine at all? He just saw, sorry, I'm double mic'd.
No, you're
that.
fine. Yeah,
But he just saw that documentary and he wanted to do something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool just to have someone that was inspired.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna have Lexi come up and talk about was Annie gonna come up as well? Annie's online. Okay. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Annie, you can talk first if you'd like.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Lexi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hi everyone, I'm Annie Patton. I am a rising third-year medical student, and I've been with ATI, I guess now going on a year and a half. And just want to say this is definitely the best part of medical school for me. It really is kind of a take home of why medicine matters and how it can actually impact people. What we're starting with right now is Lexi and I's trip to Romania. And this was one of the most coolest experiences I have gotten to do, because it's just one of those things where we went, and for almost every day for 3 weeks, we got hands-on OR experience led by Dr. Claudia Malancha and Radu Malancha. And the level of just, I don't know, accessibility that we had, the level of just, they were hands-on teaching us. Lexi, you probably will have way more details that you can talk about, but this is just a really cool part of the ATI program to get students international experiences that I think is really valued.
And to add on to what Annie was saying, we're lucky to have kind of a pipeline of students having the ability to go back and meet with those partners, collaborate, and also learn in a different environment, outside of the United States. At least from what we got to see, we got to help in the wards. We got to go to every single level of the hospital and distribute surveys and meet people from different specialties, which was really interesting. But we also got to see the differences in public and private care, as well as, some of the differences they have in equipment and policy, which is really eye-opening and, makes you a better physician and have more perspective. Ultimately, we're really gracious towards and fortunate to be hosted by the Malanchas, and very thankful for that partnership that Dr. Headings has built, and we've been able to continue on. So we're really excited to send 2 additional students to Romania this next summer to continue that legacy and, keep this collaboration up. Do you have anything else to add, Annie?
No, I don't think so. I think that was a good summary. I will actually insert a story of something that I never expected to happen and probably will never get to do again in my life. But an example of the hands-on experience that we got, Lexi and I went into the OR one day, and there was a man and his toes were almost completely cut off with a circular saw. And Radu let us go in, and I think we each got to put in 2 K-wires to put his toes back together. And that was pretty mind-blowing for me. So that was an experience I will probably never get to do again.
No, that was awesome. Perfect. Anybody else have anything to contribute about Romania in the room? Michael, hey, Cole.
Okay. Hi. I guess for everybody online, as well, I'm Michael Brayman, got contracting as well. We are 2 of the graduating fellows. And I think, just to reiterate what's been said so far, I think, we can't say enough positive things about how this, our experience with IOTC is just really, I think for me, a lot of what I reflect on is just the longevity that it provided me as it relates to just like my entire arch of medical school. Like we mentioned it to Dr. Hennings quite a bit. Like, I can't tell you the number of times like where we would be having like a rough day or like a rough week on clinical rotations, and you're just like feeling very burned out. And then to be able to have our like kind of our weekly meetings to look forward to, almost purely because of how much energy Dr. Headings has, regardless of like you've been on call for, who knows how many hours, and you just came in and like you didn't get any sleep, and you still just have so much passion because of how important this mission is to all of us. And it has like a real, real like kind of seeping effect to all the students as well. where I know that we just are so inspired by being able to be around that energy. So I just want to say thank you to you, kind of first and foremost. And then as it relates to our Romania trips and our international travels, yeah, I totally concur with what's been said. Saw things that I thought I would only read about in textbooks. Saw really unique pathology. Saw really different, really kind of unique and different kind of modalities that they use for treatment. One of them was something that we researched pretty heavily, that my year did, and then also some subsequent years did some work as it relates to kind of opioid sparing pain management. They basically use no opioids at all, other than like in the actual intraoperative period where you might give something like fentanyl, which is pretty common anesthesia practice here in the States as well. But then in the post-operative and perioperative kind of time period, they basically prescribe no opioids. I probably talked to greater than 10 or 15 clinicians and just asked them, like, over the course of your career, this is probably a cumulative greater than 100 years worth of clinical practice between all the people that I talked to. I said, over the course of your career, how many written opioid scripts have you given for someone to take in like the outpatient setting? They said 0 across like 100 years worth of cumulative clinical practice. So just really interesting, and just really changes your perspective when you get to do these experiences. Change your perspective about what's possible in medicine, the ways that we think about things, and often we're not always right. There's different ways to do things, and many times there's better ways to do things too. So just being really open-minded were some of the big takeaways for us.
Yeah, just to add a little extra to that, these international experiences for students are kind of like one of the main pillars of this organization. And so in addition to these interchanging scholastic experiences, we're conducting international comparative research, we're scrubbing in ORs that come from these surgeons that we now consider our friends and our colleagues. We also have just like really cool life experiences from it that kind of put this whole journey of medicine into perspective, because you can bog down by exam after exam, kind of takes the humanity out of this whole thing. So I think one of the main goals of this whole project, these experiences, to keep humanity in medicine. And so having these experiences like playing pickup soccer after a day at the hospital, in Romania, having dinner on the back patio, things like wine, discussing some interesting pathologies that we might not have ever seen here in the States. This is a really, really cool part of what we did. And I think if you go to the next slide, Michael, we'll talk about some of the research. So this is the scholastic aspect of what we did over there. So making some studies on their fractures. There's Gamazole is the medication that Michael was mentioning. There's many national presentations. I'm sure we want some presentation research on boards, as well as some ongoing studies comparing the physician and nurse perspectives of pain. One thing we really keyed in on in Romania is their management of pain and perception of pain as a system. So just some really, really cool work that we were able to do through this work. We also have a newer.
Is the speaker using a microphone? Because we can't hear online.
Now it sounds like it was off. For those online, just to summarize briefly, I was just saying that these experiences internationally are kind of the one of the main pillars of this organization. And in addition to these incredible experiences in the hospital, we have these personal experiences with the surgeons we collaborate with the nursing staff, the other hospital staff, and it really adds like a human perspective to our medical education process that sometimes can get lost in the weeds of all the exams and clinical tests we have to jump through. With that being said, Romania is one of our longest standing collaborations internationally. Madagascar is a newer one, and we'll be sending some fellows to Madagascar this coming year as well. Who would like to speak on Madagascar's involvement?
So as Colin was saying, we do have a new collaboration with Madagascar, and one part of that collaboration is with Mercy Ships, which you can see here, and that is led by, can you guys see this pointer? Okay, this is Francis. So that's who leads Mercy Ships, and they essentially like take a ship around Madagascar and they go to communities that aren't reached as often, and they provide care there. And then we also have Dr. Fabrice, and he and Francis They actually, right here, they came to Kansas City, and that was one of the days that me and Annie were with them, and we got to take them around. And Dr. Fabrus, he has a hospital in Tomasina, I believe is how it's pronounced. And then, yeah, we also got to then connect them with some of the people that we have from the Ethiopian committee, which will be talked about soon. And they got to meet with different physicians here, such as Dr. Bebe, who's part of this group. And Alex Wise and I are going to be the medical students that go there this summer. And one of the things that we've worked on research-wise was Annie and I got to talk to Dr. Fabrus. This is his hospital that he had built, and we got to learn about, like, okay, how is your hospital flowing? How does it work? Since they came and visited, there was a cyclone Jazani, and it actually destroyed the hospital that Dr. Fabrus works at. And he also like lives on top of that hospital, everything. So he's been doing loads of work there. And now, from a research standpoint, we can go and see, like, okay, when these natural disasters occur, how does that then shift your care? How is your workflow working now? And we're planning on also going with Francis and seeing how it works from like a mobile standpoint. But yeah. And then next is Ethiopia, which Dr. Heddings will speak on.
Thanks, Talon. So February of this year, we traveled to Ethiopia. We had just graduated Dr. Beza. He was our last fellow. And a lot happened politically in Ethiopia over that year. Dr. Beza, I just want to check and see who's online. So Dr. Beza, actually, there was all of the residents were fired by the government of Ethiopia, and all of the physicians were fired at one point. There was a protest in Ethiopia due to the poor working conditions in their hospitals. The government has been investing a lot into their roads and infrastructure to attract tourists. And for example, we were at Children's Mercy today at a screening of our documentary, and they had a bioethics conference. We were there speaking, and Dr. Stephanie Kokora told a story how she went to a nice light show. It was an incredibly dazzling light show that they put on in this park that the government had just made. And then she came in the next morning to the hospital she was working at, and 10 neonates had died because they ran out of oxygen. So the government had invested all this money in their infrastructure, for like parks and light shows and things to attract people, but they're not investing in their healthcare. So this is the environment currently in Ethiopia. No, just so you understand, our strategy is not, I specifically checked who is online because we're not trying to necessarily call people out. Our strategy is to bring people on board and help them think that improving their healthcare system is their idea, not necessarily ours. But this trip was a trip kind of to reconnect with some of the key players in Ethiopia, and we were able to meet with the provost of St. Paul's Millennium Medical Center, which is their premier academic medical center there, and just kind of re-engage with them in terms of strengthening our partnership. So that was a very successful trip while we were there, and we have since the IOTC has since paid for a shipping container that will carry medical equipment to their one designated public trauma center there. So it's lots of exciting things happening there. Lori, Bacher, anything you guys want to say about that trip? Okay. Yeah, while we were there, sorry, let me get that off screen. While we were there, we spent some time in the operating room. We got to participate in one long pelvic ring disruption reconstruction case with Dr. Beza. And then we were able to spend some time with their entire orthopedic department while we were there. This is just some of the research that's come out of Ethiopia. One thing about the work we do is it's not just about improving medical care overseas, but it's also learning from our partners that we collaborate with on improving our medical care. And one of the things that Michael mentioned that he really has kind of spearheaded was opioid use in terms of pain, particularly in America, and what are the alternatives to using opioids for pain control. Similar to Romania, in Ethiopia, they don't use as many opioids. And we did a postoperative pain comparative study. And what we found out was that Ethiopians have less pain than Americans, but they use less opioids. How much time do we have? How are we doing on time? 12:25. Does somebody want to speak about that on this study? Lori, you want to speak? Perfect timing.
Yeah, so this study was actually, I think we're pretty proud of this study just because it sort of spans many generations of ATI with Jonathan Dahlman. He was a medical student at the time when the data was collected. And it's essentially what Dr. Heading said. So we were able to see that, survey patients both in Ethiopia and the United States and figure out how much pain they were in after procedures and then match those to patients within the United States. And it was exactly that. So even with nerve blocks, muscle blocks, you were still finding that the reported pain in Ethiopia was less. And part of that we found with all of the trips that we've done as part of ATI is that Americans seem to be in a lot more pain all the time compared to a lot of countries. But it was interesting to see that in the United States, the ranking of 1 to 10 was really how they decided how to give opioids. And so if you're in more pain, you get more opioids. And then in Ethiopia, they weren't providing opioids and they were in less pain. So gave us a lot to think about. And as far as how we treat pain in the United States, and I know that Dr. Headings has some studies that have kind of come off of this sort of data. So
thank you, Laura. All right, Lexi. Yeah. Here's another study Lexi and Megan were on.
I remember when the opioid study came out because I was shadowing one day and it caught fire in the orthopedic department. Everyone was really excited about this data. But it's really cool to see the research move that way in the community. Here are a couple additional projects we are focusing on. Really, when we're talking about doing research, one, we're trying to improve the medical system, but also we're using it kind of as a marketing and educational device, getting research out there, letting people know if the research shows that these problems that we're talking about exist, then, we can publish that and then use that to present and, talk about it later. So through these studies, one of them, Megan, interviewed one of the collaborators in Ethiopia, and we're talking about, what does a life of an orthopedic surgeon look like? And then we have additional Ethiopian focused studies that are focused on the waitlist study. How long does it take for somebody to have an injury, get admitted, and then finally get treated for that? So we have a ongoing Ethiopian waitlist study, which we're really excited about, but that will bring a new lens into the research literature.
That's so spot on. This research is very important. There's some research that can be done that in terms of speaking about marketing, if somebody has a knee replacement and there's research done to show that there's a new knee replacement that can be put in 5 minutes quicker or get you 3 more degrees of range of motion. I mean, although you're accomplishing something with this research, you're literally contributing to something that will save lives. And I think, like Annie said, this, in talking about something impactful in medical school, if there's anything you learn from this, it's how to take the knowledge that you have and apply it to save and change lives in meaningful ways. And that's one thing I love about these research studies. Okay, Colin, you got to speak about Zambia. So Colin went with us to Zambia this year. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, would love to talk about it. So this was like an impromptu thing. End of my 4th year of medical school. One day, Dr. Headings was like, "Hey, I'm going to Zambia. Do you want to come along?" And I'd be crazy to say no to that. And so I spent some of the month in the operating room here with Dr. Headings, kind of getting our mojo in the OR together. And then we flew over to Zambia with the rest of our team here, Backer, Lori, and then we met our recently graduated fellow, Dr. Patrick, and then our nurse fellow, Future. And there, our whole goal was we have this new relationship with this hospital in Zambia that we are able to expand their operating room capacity significantly. And so they mentioned we are sending a shipping container of equipment to Ethiopia, and we did the same thing in Zambia, and we sent them 5 operating rooms worth of equipment. Many C-arm X-ray machines, fracture tables, anesthesia units, everything they would need to run these operating rooms. And through this collaboration, we basically wanted to go there, we wanted to get an understanding of how is this hospital functioning at baseline now before they receive these supplies. And then we can go back after they receive these supplies and implement them in the hospital. And we can have an understanding, okay, how do you feel you are addressing orthopedic trauma care now? How is your hospital functioning as a whole? Is this contributing to your ability to bring in money and continue to help more people? And while we were collaborating over there, we learned that, they're doing these surgeries in Zambia, helping a lot of people with orthopedic issues. They're taking the money that they make from these surgeries and they're actually using it to do philanthropy of their own and do surgeries for free for children from surrounding villages who have orthopedic conditions. So it was a really incredible experience. We got to see a lot of their culture, hang out with all of our friends and family that we've got to know so well in Zambia, as well as spend a lot of good time in the hospital, forming relationships with hospital leadership and local government leadership as well.
Thanks, Colin. And here in this picture, you see Colin, Lori, our COO, Bach, our Director of Marketing. And then this is Future, who is our first nursing fellow, and Dr. Kenda here. And this is Gloria Kenda. She's a physician as well. She came over here and worked with Dr. Sarah Kessler. And then this is probably the most popular member. Don't you think this is the most popular member of the crew? John Sebastian. Yeah, John Sebastian is the most popular member of the crew. Okay, moving on to Laura. I got to have Laura come up and speak about this because this is a good example of research that really makes an impact and helps us make decisions. So talk a little bit about this, Laura. And I can't say enough about you getting this done. I just cannot say enough. And to me, this was a pivotal piece of research in terms of helping us make decisions.
Now, this was definitely the biggest challenge I would say, of like my medical school career, including all my tests. Just because I can't say too much about Dr. Kinder and Felix and how they helped sort of navigate the hospital systems in Zambia, because the systems and the policies that they have in place are a lot different from the US. And so we just wanted to see, what does it look like if you take outcomes and surgical treatment at a public hospital in Zambia versus a private hospital in Zambia? Do you see more complications? Do you see, people that are coming back to the hospital? What is the wait list like? And it was very challenging because obviously we are here in the United States, and the trip that just happened to Zambia was after this data was already published, but I think it was a good segue into getting into Zambia. But I think it just showed that while the public versus private, obviously that's pay versus not paying. If you have a private hospital in a system, it actually does alleviate the stress of the wait list from those that are waiting to get orthopedic surgeries. And some of those are life-threatening. Some of those are not necessarily life and death, but it's going to impact your life. Can you work? Can you make money for your families? And so we were able to show that there was slightly more complications when it came to the public hospitals. The wait lists were longer. The way that they did surgeries was very variant depending on the tools that they had, depending on the different implants and everything. So the surgeons at these hospitals had to be very sort of, they had to have a lot of different skills because they had to do something many different times versus maybe at the private hospital. But the thing that you did see was that a lot of the physicians that worked at the public hospital were also working at the private hospital as well. And that just shows the physicians and the surgeons that they have over there, they love to give back and really help their communities. So I think this took like 2 years at least to even start collecting data, just trying to get through the loopholes of the government. And then, as I said, Felix and Dr. Kinder really helping us find ways to collect data so that the data sets were similar and we could compare them. So yeah, very proud of this study.
Yes, great study, great work, Laura. And I'll tell you from my perspective, if you're going to invest thousands of dollars in resources into a hospital, you want to know the one you want to invest it in. And what came out of this study, because Laura had more than one hospital in it, was their main trauma center, their complication rate after surgery was 60%. Just looking at 4 outcomes, by the way. That's greater than half of their patients were having complications and major complications, some of them life-threatening. That's not where you want to put your resources. That's a system that the whole system needs reworking. But the hospital that we found that was the best one was the one that our former fellow was working at. That's where we are sending this equipment. And I think everybody on the team would agree when we got to that hospital, Laura had done her homework. That research was correct. I mean, it was just yes. I mean, it was a nice validation of, wow, this research matters. And it helped us make a really good decision. And here's the shipping container. Annie's responsible for that Rock Chalk Jayhawk flag there. Thanks, Annie. There it is being shipped off to Zambia. Here's the Project Cure team. Annie, you want to speak a little bit about that? Because Lori and Annie are the best to speak about this. Lori, you want to say something about it as well? Annie's online. Annie's online.
Annie, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, no, you're good. Do you want to go, Lori?
Ahead. No, go ahead. You start.
Okay. Well, Project Cure has been, I think, a great addition to an ATI arm that we have. I think it's a really cool way for students to have like a tangible impact on international communities, because we have so many people that come to lectures and they're like, what can we do? How can we contribute? And this is a cool opportunity that we've introduced where we have students go monthly to Project Cure to do volunteer nights. And I'm really proud that we got it started. And hopefully we'll keep up until like next year and like just continue this partnership with Project Cure, because their biggest struggle really is getting people in there and volunteering. I think, again, a story that kind of really highlights the impact we are making there is on one of our Project Cure nights, we were sent to go sort this whole area of stuff that had been sitting there for almost 2 or 3 years. And it was really sad because a lot of the stuff that we were sorting, we had to just throw away because it was expired. And the manager there, Toy, she was like, this is really like worst case scenario for us, is that we get stuff in here and then we can't sort it fast enough to actually get it shipped out and be given to communities that actually do need it. And it just goes expired here and we have to throw it away. So I think it's really cool that ATI as an organization can kind of do our part in helping this nonprofit Project Cure that helps us achieve our mission of trying to get resources and equipment out to our international partners. So that's kind of the overview. Lori, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think you summed it up really well. And just to kind of piggyback on that, I think the Project Cure collaboration is really great as far as kind of as we develop and grow as a nonprofit. One of the things that we've noticed is that we interact and collaborate with a lot of other nonprofits. And so this is a really good example of that, how we are hopefully going to help them grow and we will grow alongside them. This was our first big kind of project. And for me personally, I'd been kind of involved in it for a couple of years. So took us a couple years to get to this point, and I learned a lot. So as far as our organization goes, I feel like we have we had a huge learning curve along with Project Cure, and I think hopefully as we move forward, we're going to have a really smooth operation between them and us as far as getting equipment sent to people. I love the collaborative effort between the two nonprofits that's happening. And then everything that you said, Annie, as far as like getting people involved, this is a really good way. So I love that. So yeah, we're just now waiting to get it in Zambia. I can't wait for it to actually get to our Zambian hospital. And I think we can celebrate then. So that's it.
I think we have more pictures too that kind of
yeah,
highlight the work. Yeah.
And for me personally, this has been a huge learning curve, but also huge thanks to the med students. I had so much fun working with you all. I have a lot of memories of us going through all that stuff and just laughing a lot too. So I can't thank you all enough for partnering with me on these events. I absolutely love working with you guys.
We're going to bring up our director of marketing and our lead director on our documentary, Bakar Hamada.
Hello. So Trauma, the New Epidemic, we started screening it last year. It's a documentary that focuses on Ethiopia's only public dedicated trauma center, which is a repurposed hotel, which is that hospital we've been collaborating with since I think our first trips from like the whole team was in 2023. We started, really small screenings. That's kind of just how the festival circuit kind of goes. In Joplin with Uplift Film Festival, there was like 12 people or even less than that, maybe like 6 people in that room. But, as we kind of kept doing festivals, getting more awards, we built more credibility. It just kept getting kind of bigger and bigger. Same thing with our social media as of recent. And then now that we have a lot of this credibility, we've been kind of using that for, institutional screenings like the one we just did at Children's Mercy, as well as diaspora community screenings, which we did here in Kansas City at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which raised a lot of money to help pay for the cost of the shipping container for the Ethiopian shipment we're about to send. And now we just came back from LA last week, and we're just kind of using all that credibility to kind of continue building and, raising awareness. So, I mean, not too much to talk about on the film and media side, but it's been a good year. Yeah.
Bakar, you won a lot of awards. Right. He did. You won a lot of awards. Okay. Additional research. I'm going to let Lexi take this.
Yeah, it was actually when I was pulling all of this information will be on the website Trauma Central. And there will be a QR code at the end, but I pulled like a screenshot of the TikTok page, and it's just Future and Lori like racking up the thousands and thousands of viewership. They're viral for like a good streak you saw on there. But it's really great to see, all these initiatives and putting and marketing this out here. So we have additional research the next 2 slides. We've been able to, as a medical school student cohort, to not only dive into orthopedic-based opportunities, but also the global health. So blending that and using that to not only learn about orthopedic surgery, as a naive medical student, and then figuring out, what orthopedic surgery is all about, especially on the global scale. And then also being able to dive into, different barriers that different communities are facing that we're working with. So if anybody wanted to talk about their research, you can. Otherwise, I want to give Dr. Headings like ample time to do the graduation. So we've gotten a lot of additional research as well here, and we have a lot of projects in the works right now. I want to give Annie a quick sec to talk about the book and monograph we're producing.
The update with that is they are happening, they are in the works, and it'll be really nice because even Dr. Headings and Bakar were just talking about how they were just in LA for a film screening, and it'll be nice to have something that we can actually hand out to people at those type of events where it's like, here's more information about what we're doing as a whole as an organization, and here's more information on why we're doing it in the root of the orthopedic trauma epidemic.
Yeah, that's 100% correct, Annie. That was one of the things when we were in LA. It was interesting connecting with the physician there who their group had spent $14 million purchasing land to build a hospital there in Ethiopia, a subspecialty center, only to have the land taken away from them. But then they got it back, but then they got it taken away from them again. And they just wanted to know our method. And I think, that's the importance of the monograph, is just to talk about our successes and failures well. So, okay, well, if we will move into handing out our diplomas. What is our time exactly? 12:43. Perfect time. Okay. All right. I cannot say enough about these 3 fellows. Super proud of these 3 fellows. I could just talk about them. If I could have had children that I would have chosen. I mean, you guys will see. You'll have kids, and your kids are going to be nothing like you at all, probably. So that's just the way it is. That's family, right? So, but I'm telling you, I'm so proud of these 3 fellows, all our fellows, so proud of. they're going to make great physicians. So I mean, these are diplomas, and I know they don't mean a lot, but hopefully you'll put them away somewhere. And maybe when you're having a rough day, or maybe if the system is just dragging you down in terms of, you're getting hit over the head about your profitability and how much time you're spending in the operating room, and you use one extra K wire or something like that. You can look back at this and say, wait, medicine's about making people better, and get you focused back on what's really important and start thinking about that, in your career, because the three of you have made substantial contributions to this organization that are long lasting. So we'll start off with Laura. Laura, come on up here. I think everybody knows Laura's an amazing soccer player. Yeah, playing that game in Romania with Laura against Romania, that was pretty fun, pretty impressive. And watching her use her soccer skills as she moved the ball down the field, sometimes not even letting it touch the ground, that was incredibly impressive. So only because they let me, though. I'm so here's what I have for Laura. This is your diploma. Be it known that Laura Jackson, MD, during her 4 years as a global surgery fellow, successfully completed an international rotation in orthopedic trauma in Botoșani, Romania. Following this experience, she spearheaded the planning, execution, and publishing of a landmark study on the differences in outcomes of orthopedic trauma patients at public versus private institutions in Zambia. The implementation of conclusions from this research could result in fewer lives lost and the improved prevention of disabilities for patients sustaining trauma in Zambia. In addition, Laura Jackson provided valuable leadership and mentoring to junior IOTC fellows. Laura also participated in efforts to improve trauma care in Ethiopia and Romania. Laura's hard work and dedication reflect great credit upon herself, the IOTC, and the University of Kansas School of Medicine. Laura, congratulations. Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Colin. So I think some of you know, Laura's going to one of my alma maters, University of Minnesota. It is a great program. She's going to do great there. Colin's coming to our program here, University of Kansas. Here's Colin's diploma. Be it known that Colin Frecking, MD, during his 4 years as a global surgery fellow, successfully completed international rotations in orthopedic trauma in Botoșani, Romania, and Lusaka, Zambia. Following these experiences, Colin led research on analyzing the outcomes of intertrochanteric hip fractures in Botoșani, Romania. The conclusions of his research, if implemented, could result in decreased mortality and improved function for patients in Romania who sustain intertrochanteric hip fractures. In addition, Colin led efforts on grant writing during his time as an IOTC fellow. If Colin's grants are awarded, it will result in the largest financial contributions from an outside donor IOTC has ever received, changing the reach and capabilities of this organization. Colin also provided valuable leadership and mentoring to junior IOTC fellows. Furthermore, Colin participated in efforts to improve trauma care in Ethiopia and Zambia. Colin's hard work and dedication reflect great credit upon himself, the IOTC, and the University of Kansas School of Medicine. Colin, congratulations. You bet. And I look forward to working with you in our residency program. Okay, it's a great place to start. Okay, Michael. Michael's contribution here is a great example of improving healthcare in America based off things we learn overseas. So it's and I just can't say enough about that. And clearly, he has a heart for justice, because I think you have to have a passion for something like that if you dive into this, and you're trying to take on basically, things that are far above you, but you start small. And Michael, I think he is going into medicine, but he wants to do pulmonary critical care, and he's going to do amazing at that, I'm sure. So, well, here's Michael's diploma. Be it known that Michael Brahman, MD, during his 4 years as a global surgery fellow, successfully completed an international rotation in orthopedic trauma in Botoșani, Romania. Following this experience, he spearheaded efforts to present and publish research on opioid-sparing pain regimens that resulted in awards at 2 national conferences. The institution of changes in American pain regimens based upon conclusions from his research could result in saving thousands of American lives. There is no hyperbole in that statement. In addition, Michael Brahman provided valuable leadership and mentoring to junior IOTC fellows. Michael also participated in efforts to improve trauma care in Ethiopia and Zambia. Michael's hard work and dedication reflect great credit upon himself, the IOTC, and the University of Kansas School of Medicine. Michael, congratulations. And you're going to the University of Utah. University of Utah. All right. Now, let's see. I'm going to back up because I wanted to make sure we got that out. So, in closing, we've made lots of partnerships. If there's one thing that we've learned, we cannot do this alone. We talked about the cure shipment, but also just within the University of Kansas, there's several schools we work with. Obviously, we work very closely with the Office of International Programs. We wouldn't be here without the Office of International Programs. And that's where this whole thing kind of got its start. But we also work with the School of Nursing, the School of Engineering. We started a new collaboration with the chair of the School of Engineering. There's really got excited about this whole process, and it's going to be exciting to see the things that come out of that. Film and media, we're going to continue to develop and deepen that relationship, and same with the School of Architecture and Design. We also have reached out to communities outside of academic organizations, working in faith-based communities and community organizations. ECHO KC, which is the Ethiopian organization within Kansas City, was responsible for raising $23,000 for the shipping container to Ethiopia. That entire shipping container was paid for by donations from Ethiopians, which is pretty impressive. And then, was there anybody else I'm missing? Oh, there's now Ethiopian churches that we're working with in LA as well. So, and the Ethiopian Community Organization of LA. The Ethiopian Community Organization of LA has just come behind us. The amount of support that we're getting out of the Ethiopian community out of LA is just, it's really touching, and it will be exciting to see how that grows as well. Have I missed anything? Everybody that's a part of this organization does great work, impactful work that will save and change lives. You cannot, just to speak of one place, Zambia, you cannot add 5 operating rooms to a hospital and not have an impact. That is huge. So thanks everybody for coming. Thanks everybody for the work that you do. And we look forward to working with everybody in next year coming up. And Lexi, great job for putting this PowerPoint together. That was Lexi's work here. So yeah. Oh, let's take some pictures. Take some pictures. And you guys just